What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Tripp. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Live podcast, where we interview the very best real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders all throughout the country. And today, I could not be more honored to be joined by the legend, Larry Goins. How's it going today, Larry?
What's happening, man? How you been?
I'm doing well, man. I want to let's just start off and set the tone early. I want to apologize to you for not reaching out to you sooner. You're one of the guests from the very beginning that I wanted to have on this show, and it's taken me this long to reach out to you. And I apologize because you're someone who I've looked up to for a long time. I actually saw you speak in Birmingham a long time ago,
Wow.
and I'm honored you're on the show. So tell everybody who doesn't know who you are, who are you, and what do you do specifically today in real estate?
Who is Larry Goins? like that movie, The Jerk. Who is Navin Johnson? So first of all, man, I really appreciate you having me on. It really is an honor whenever you hit me up. You know, I did tell you, hey, I don't do many of these anymore, but I'll be glad to do it for you. So I really do appreciate you having me on. It is an honor, and thank you so much. I appreciate that. But guys, I did my very first deal in 1986. It was an FHA non-qualifying assumable loan. And that was back before there were RIA groups, Real Estate Investors Association, back before there were coaches and mentors and gurus and all that stuff. And in the last 30 plus years, I haven't kept track, so I don't tell people over 1,000, but it's probably close to 1,000 deals. And I've done deals in 12 different states. I've done wholesaling. I've done lease options, seller financing. I've done commercial, residential, multifamily, mobile home parks, short sales, subject to deals. I've done just a ton of different kind of things, but I tend to focus on wholesaling, and I do some seller finance deals. But right now, in today's market, I'm a firm believer it's time to stash cash for the crash. So we buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, and just build up our cash. So whenever the market turns, you can double down and get more bang for your buck.
Larry, let's talk about that. Let's just jump right in and get right to the meat and potatoes. Stash cash for the crash.
Yeah, remember, you heard it from me.
So listen, I've heard people say this for going on 3 years now. What makes today different than 2 or 3 years ago when we were hearing, oh, it's coming, but it hadn't come. Not in our market, it hadn't come.
Well, and it hasn't come, and you're not going to see a turn. And you can also quote me on this. You're not going to see a turn until after next year's election or this year's election, right? Okay. So it's going to be in 2021 or later, more than likely, okay? It's going to be after the election because they do whatever they can to keep the economy going, keep things going in an election year, okay? We all know that, right? But I'm a little bit different than most people. I am a contrarian for the most part, but most of the properties that I buy are the dirt cheap properties, okay? I love the cheap. Check this out. I bought 2 mobile homes yesterday, my very first call coming back from the holidays, 2 mobile homes that one of them has a tenant in it paying $500 a month with land for $10,000, right? So I like the cheap houses. It's not unusual for me to buy a house for 10 and sell it for 20. Buy a house for 20, sell it for 35 or 40. Buy a house for 30 and sell it for 50 or 60. Yeah. Now, having said that, a $30,000 house is pretty much always going to be a $30,000 house, okay? I could pick up that $30,000 house for 10 grand. That's what I do. I find houses that are worth 50, I pick them up for 20. Worth 30, I pick them up for 10, right? So I can always sell those. I don't care what time of year or the economy or market or anything. However, I do know that as a general rule, there's going to be a lot more of those $30,000 houses I could pick up for 10 when the market does turn. I can pick them up for 10 now, but there'll be a lot more that I can pick up for 10, or a lot more of those $50,000, $60,000 houses I can pick up for 20, 25,000 whenever the market does turn. So that's exactly what I mean by stash cash for the crash. I'm still buying and selling deals, and I'm always going to buy and sell deals out at those numbers. But whenever the market does turn, you're going to be able to pick up a lot more of them. And you need to have some dry powder. You need to have some cash on hand so you can take advantage of it.
Larry, give people some perspective now, because you're sitting here talking about a 10,000, you're buying a house or trailer for 10,000 with the land. We can obviously do that in Birmingham. I'm doing that all day. I understand you're in what market, and what markets are prevalent for something like this? Because you can't do that in every market.
Well, your market is phenomenal for that. I've bought and sold a lot of houses in Birmingham and in Bessemer and some of those areas down where you are. And we do everything virtual. We buy everything over the phone. Okay. But I'm in the Carolinas market. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm a little bit different than most people. I'm in the Charlotte MSA, and there's a lot of competition in Charlotte, just like there is in Birmingham where you are, right? A lot of people in Birmingham. So here's what I do. I don't buy anything in Charlotte or in the Charlotte MSA. I go out 2, sometimes 3 counties out. I typically don't even buy in the adjoining counties next to Mecklenburg, which is where Charlotte is. I go 2 or 3 counties out, and guess what? They don't get cold calls. They don't get RVMs. They don't get text broadcasting. They don't get postcards, right? I mean, whenever I call them up, or whenever they call me, they're like, what is this postcard I received? What is this about, right? That they don't understand a lot of times because they're not inundated. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody's not like that. I do have sometimes people will say, well, I got another postcard. I'm going to call them or whatever. But for the most part, I've eliminated my competition by going out. And a lot of people say too, Brian, they say, but what about selling it? If you're out in the middle of nowhere, which I'm not in the middle of nowhere, but if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you know, how are you going to sell that property? Well, guess what? How many buyers do you need? I only need one, right?
So it's interesting you say that. Larry, is that the strategy that you have found that's working right now to go, since the market's flooded with wholesalers, with buyers, and is that the strategy? Go a couple of counties out from the main city center and stash cash, like buy, sell. How long have you been doing that, like in this market? And you think it's only going to last maybe another year?
Well, you know what? I don't think it's only going to last another year. Okay. I think it's going to last forever and ever. Amen. Okay. Because I've been doing it for years. Okay. And I've just really, in the last maybe 2 years, started really thinking about, wait a minute, I'm not buying in the cities, although I'd been marketing there. I'm not buying in the big MSAs. I'm buying out here. We get our deals here, one here, one here, one here. We focus on 6 different counties right now, right? And that's what we do. We do direct mail. We do text broadcasting. And we're doing some cold calling, starting to, but not a whole lot of that yet. But there's always going to be properties out there in small town USA. In fact, Joe McCall and I created a training program when he saw what I was doing. He and I are in 2 masterminds together. When he saw what I was doing, he said, Larry, man, you need to teach people how to do this. You know, this is small town profits. And that's what we called it, small town profits. Yep. And I did the training. He did all the back end work, and we created a course together. You know, and we got students that are crushing it in their own little market, or maybe they live in Denver, Colorado, and they're buying in Birmingham. Yeah. Or maybe they live in Las Vegas and they're buying in Tennessee, right? Yeah. So I don't think it's going to go away at all.
No, I like it. I like the strategy for today's market for sure. And I like this stash cash. You know, everybody's trying to wholesale. Everybody's trying to do a lot of the stuff that it seems like you're trying to do what other people are not doing. And that's why you're having the success. Larry, I want to switch gears a little bit, because when people hear your name is kind of synonymous with, you know, and I hate to kind of throw out this word, but guru, teacher, educator, speaker, and you have dialed that back a lot over the past, year, maybe a little over a year. Talk about that for a second, because, people see you and they hear from you and they're like, oh man, Larry, yeah, I saw him speak and I heard about him this, and he's got this program, he's done this. You have admittedly dialed that back. You're doing more deals, it seems like, than you ever have before. You're more focused on that. Why did you do that? And what's been the benefit?
Sure. Um, I I got to the point where, I was fortunate enough and had the funds to be able to be in several masterminds. And one mastermind, I know Collective Genius, I've been in that 8 or 9 years now. And now it's like 25 grand a year. But being in these masterminds and being able to associate with people like yourself who are successful, and you get other ideas and you come up with, like, man, why am I really doing this? Right? What's my own personal vision? I never really sat down and said, what's my own personal vision? Right? Never really kind of put pen to paper and thought about it. And one of the things I wanted to do is I didn't want to travel anymore. Right? I didn't want to travel anymore.
Why? What? Like what? Where'd that come from, Larry?
It's like hotels, airplanes, Ubers, and and I would go out and speak at a RIA group. I would fly up to Connecticut or somewhere, and I'd take a day out of my life. I'd speak at the group, and then I'd spend the night and come back, and it's time away from my family and all that stuff, right? So I just came to the point where, what do I really want to do? What do I like to do? Well, I'm a really good negotiator. I'm really good at sales. I like being on the phone, right? So I just decided I want to stay here. I want to generate leads. I want to be on the phone, not 24/7, not 8 hours a day, but I love being on the phone, and I probably make 20, 30 calls a day, but I'll get a deal a day, right? And I love that. I enjoy it. It's what I'm good at. It's what I like to do. And like our coaching students, I still do some coaching, not a whole lot, but our coaching students, they have my live calls they can listen to, and as well as all of our tools and all that good stuff. But I just decided I didn't want to travel that much anymore. So I travel a couple, 3 times a year. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have 2 masterminds I travel to. One I hit twice a year, and the other one I hit 3 times a year. And that's about all the traveling that I do. And I like to stay in the office and do deals and build a team and ring the bell and high five and, help out local charities and stuff. Just before we jumped on this, I was signing up to volunteer at a local homeless shelter. And they have this thing every year where they count all the homeless people so they can make the whole county aware of how many homeless there actually are. So, I was signing up to do that. So, it's just a lot of things that I want to do. I don't want to travel that much anymore unless it's for, something I want to do.
For sure. Larry, I think that, people hear, you're traveling, you're flying into a city, you're like catching an Uber and going and speaking, which, you get a lot of adulation for that. I get a lot of personal self-gratification from being in front of a group and sharing, knowledge that I might have, and then staying the night and then just jumping back on a plane and coming back home. A lot of people are like, man, that sounds pretty cool. I want to get to the point in my real estate career where I can start teaching like that and maybe be an educator and help give back. Yeah, I want to make a little bit of money, but give back because I enjoy doing that. You're kind of like, you've done that. It's like almost like old hat. Is that kind of, you just got burned out on it?
Well, there's no question about it. I'm a kind of person that I require validation. I do, and the people around me know that. It's like, way to go, Larry, good job. I mean, I don't mind saying that. That's just a part of who I am. So when I made the decision that I was not going to travel and speak anymore, I still am very involved in the local RIA group here, and so I'll get up in front of that group maybe once a month and talk a little bit or MC the group. But I do require that validation and being in front of people. I think that's another reason that I played guitar, to be up on stage. And so I do miss that. And it took a little while to get used to it because, I've shared the stage with Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, Donald Trump, Susie Orman, all those people at big conventions and expos. And then all of a sudden, I'm not going to do it anymore. And here I see guys out there like Ted Thomas, he's been doing it since the 30s. And he's still out. I was just on the phone with him the other day.
Wow.
He's still out there crushing it. It's like, man, better you than me. I don't want to do it. And Ron LeGrand,
Right.
come on. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, like I said, I mean, some people just like, they feel like they want that. And then you mentioned a big word. And I know for me, it came from Sean McCloskey, but you mentioned that big word vision. Like I never really had a vision for my life until I met Sean and started working through some of those things. And there's so many people in this business. They see dollar signs and they may be good at what they do. And they're making a good living. And it's like, maybe there's more dollar signs over here, and just keep chasing the dollar and chasing that next thing when you don't even really have a clear goal, plan, vision for your life. Is that kind of where you felt like you were?
Yes, that's exactly where I was. Not to mention the fact that it's very, very hard to be really, really, really successful at something if you have 2 or 3 different things you were doing. Right? Like we were doing real estate. We had an education company. I had 26 employees at one time. And the majority of them were on the education side, right? I mean, when you have 1 or 2 people in customer service, 2 people in accounting, you got a sales floor, you got this, you got that. I mean, it was overwhelming, and it was a machine. It was a beast. I mean, don't get me wrong. We made millions of dollars a year in the guru business, and we have a great reputation. And I've got my wall out here. If I open up the door and showed you my wall of my training room out here is lined with hundreds of testimonials, photos framed on the wall, hundreds of testimonials around of students that, that we've helped make money. And it's really inspiring to us. I mean, I've had people walk up to me at events and walk up to me. I mean, flight attendants on airplanes. I'm sitting in first class and the flight attendant recognizes me and sits down and picks my brain for an hour and cries because I've helped her close her first deal. Right. So I love that. I really, really do. But, and that's one of the reasons I still do some educating and some teaching and podcasts like this. But for the most part, I know what I like to do. I want to stay local. I want to do deals, and I want to have some fun and make some money. And it's not all about how much money can you make. It's really about simplifying. I spent the last 2 weeks redoing my goals for this year. And the very last thing in every one of my companies, every one of my goals, list of goals, was keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple.
Because it's so hard to get caught up. I mean, I remember when I was doing the wholesale volume that I was doing in 14, 15, and 16, where I did the majority of my wholesale deals.
Right.
Like I'm literally in the room where we used to have a 4-person call center, and no one in my area was doing that stuff. And we were absolutely crushing it. And our overhead just got completely out of control. And I just had to take a step back. We didn't do a deal one month, and I had like a $23,000 marketing budget for that month. And I was like, whoa, wait a second here. So keeping things simple is super important for sure. So
at my peak, I had $178,000 a month overhead.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is insane.
Yeah.
It is insane. And listen, when you decide you got to change something like that, this is a very, very important tip for you guys. There's some of you out there in business right now. Maybe you're going through that. You've got a machine. You got a lot of people. You got a lot of mouths to feed, right? So when a person jumps off a building, right? When a person jumps off a building, it's not the fall that kills you. It's the splat, right?
Right.
In business, it's just the opposite. When you've got $178,000 a month in overhead, or whatever your overhead is, it's not the splat that kills you, it's the fall. So here's a very, very, very important key that you've got to write down, and that's you have to accelerate the splat. You have to accelerate the splat.
Got it.
Whenever I came to that realization, actually, I got to tell you this. This is a great story. When I came to my vision, what I wanted to do, guess what? Sean McCloskey, Joe McCall, and Ron Phillips flew out to my office and spent 2 days with me in my office, helping me accelerate the splat and create my vision. And at the end of that, they left, they went back home, and guess what? They all followed up with me the following week. They're like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? I'm like, this person's gone, this person's gone. I changed this to commission only. I eliminated this. I cut this out. I cut this out. I cut this out. They're like, whoa, you did all that in like 3 days? How did you do that? Right? So you've got to accelerate the splat. If you're going to make a change like that, and you're very top heavy and you've got a lot of expenses, you've got to accelerate the splat. And that's something, by the way, that I learned in Sean's mastermind.
Yeah, that's awesome. Guys, we've had Sean on our podcast twice. He's phenomenal. We'll link that up in the show notes if you want to go back and listen to Sean McCloskey talk about building your vision and creating a vision for your life and for your business at the same time. It's incredibly powerful stuff for sure. Larry, for the little bit of time we got left, here's what I'd love to do if you're okay with it. I want to actually go through some actionable things, because you're known for teaching and helping people who are brand new get to their first deal. I want to go over some actionable steps that someone who might be listening to this is brand new. Maybe they've done a couple of deals. Maybe they're inconsistent. What are some things that they can do that are actionable to actually get going in this business, whether it's wholesaling, whether it's trying to stash cash, make some quick cash, or whether it's maybe even buy and hold, whatever, seller financing, whatever it might be? What are some tips?
Right. Well, the very first thing you have to do is pick a market. Okay? You pick a market, and I don't care where it is. Listen, if you live in a very, very difficult market, whether it be like Orlando or Dallas, Texas, or Houston or Las Vegas or Phoenix or whatever, those are not easy markets, right? If you're going to have to go virtual, pick a market that's going to be simple, right? Yeah. Pick a market that's going to be easy. Don't live in Las Vegas and pick Orlando, Florida, or live in Las Vegas and pick Houston, Texas. Come on. You're jumping from the fire into the flame, right? Or the flame into the fire, so to speak. So pick a market that's going to be simple, right? And I tell people, start with a MSA that's going to be at least $1 million plus, an older market where there's older inventory, right? In other words,
give us an example.
In Las Vegas, you won't find a bunch of old rental houses that were built in the 30s, right? You won't find that in Las Vegas, right? Where will you find it? Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Birmingham, Memphis, Tennessee, Little Rock, Arkansas, all those little areas, you'll find them there, right? But you won't find it in Las Vegas or Phoenix. Right. And when you have the older inventory, you got more houses that need fixing up, which means more deals that people want to sell because they either don't have the money or don't have the time to fix them up, right? So that's number one, is pick a market, right? Number two is somebody just rang the bell. We just bought a house.
Awesome.
I know, I love it. So
there's another bell.
Could you hear it?
Is that two?
Yeah, baby. So, we must have had a closing. That's awesome. I knew we had 2 or 3 scheduled this week. So anyway, the second thing is you got to learn to analyze. If you're doing wholesaling, ARV times 0.7 minus repairs minus what you want to make. It's very, very simple, right? And also in my market, we buy and sell a lot of rental properties, and I like to be able to sell them where rents are 1.5% to 2% per month, right? So if the rents are $500 a month, I want to be able to sell it for $25,000 to $30,000, right? So, so that's the way I do it.
Larry, where can people learn to analyze deals? Like I know you just gave us a quick formula, maybe even repeat that, but where can people learn the actual numbers to the business?
Yeah, I got some videos and stuff on YouTube as well as on our website, LarryGoins.com. Okay. And so, there's some stuff there, but it's very, very simple. I've gotten to the point now in my career where I don't make my offers based on what I can pay. I make my offers based on what I think they'll take. Okay. There is a big difference.
Totally.
Right. There is a big difference. And I make my offers based on what I think they'll take. That's the reason that some of my wholesale fees are $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, right? And I'm talking a house I might buy for 20 and wholesale it for 50, right? So
that's hard. That's hard because that's my bread and butter here in Birmingham. That's hard to do.
I know, right? I know. So the next thing you need to do is, after you pick a market, learn to analyze, You got to get your marketing going. You got to make the phone ring, right? And I tell people, first thing you need to do is you need to get 2 tracking numbers, a buy number and a sell number. I don't care if you're using CallRail, CallFire, Call8, whatever it is. CallRail is a good one to start with. We use smartphone, SMRT phone.io, because it integrates with Podio really well. But you just need a buy tracking number and a sell tracking number. And then you need to order your signs. You got to order some handyman special signs. We have handyman special signs. They got an arrow on them. They got blank beds, blank baths, worth blank, cash price blank. So it might say handyman special with an arrow, and then it'll say, 3 bed, 2 bath, or 3 bed, 1 bath typically, and it'll say worth 60, cash price $39.9 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And we put out about 25 of those for every property. But the reason you got to order them now, what if you get a deal next week and it takes you 3 weeks to get your signs? Okay.
Larry, sorry to interrupt, but I love the fact that you're talking about Bandit Signs to sell a property. Nobody talks about that. And it's so important that nobody does it. Nobody does that in our market. And it's so effective because there are people that want to buy those houses that are just everyday, ordinary, average Joes. They see it's worth this, but you're selling it for this. And people have more money than you'd think they do, especially in today's economy.
That's absolutely true. In fact, we have a huge buyers list, but the vast majority of the buyers that come that buy our property, because remember, I'm in 6 different counties. Most of my buyers come from Bandit Signs and Facebook ads, right? That's where most of my buyers come from. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah. So once you pick a market, learn to analyze, get your Bandit Signs, you get your phone numbers, then you got to start your marketing. You need a $500 to $1,000 a month budget. I would say $1,000 minimum, and you got to commit for 90 days. I don't care if you're doing direct mail or if you're doing cold calling, RVM, text broadcasting, whatever, but you need a budget. You got to commit to it. You got to make the phone ring. And here's the bottom line. If you are not getting a deal, you simply have not done what it takes to make the phone ring enough, right? Because it's a numbers game. Yeah. You might only get 1 out of 50 deals, 1 out of 50 offers you make, 1 out of 100 offers, 1 out of 200. You might get 1 out of 25. I don't know what your ratio is, but what I do know is if you hadn't got a deal yet, you haven't made the phone ring enough.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the name of the game today in today's market is get the phone to ring. Get the phone to ring as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. I used to do all my deals were HUD deals. All my deals. We would make like 150, 200 offers a day, and HUD is a daily auction. I wrote a book about it. And I used to do it just HUD deals, right? Yeah. But eventually HUD dried up.
Yeah, there's no more deals like that. There's
20 deals in North Carolina and 30 or 40 in South Carolina. If I wanted to do just HUD deals, I'd have to be in about 7 or 8 different states. And I just don't want to do that. I want to keep it within an hour or so. So you have to do marketing, and we do direct mail and some text broadcasting.
That's awesome. Larry, I appreciate that. Pick a market, learn to analyze deals, there's some videos on Larry's YouTube channel. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes. And you can also go to larrygoins.com. We'll put that in the show notes as well to find some videos that Larry has made they'll help you guys do your first deal. If you haven't done your first deal, marketing, get the phone to ring and get that marketing started. Commit. I love it. Commit for 90 days. Stay consistent for at least 90 days. You said 90. I'd go like 180. I mean, I want to really be consistent.
Well, you're absolutely right, but you got to get people in the habit. Yeah. You have people that say, well, hey, I got 3 calls last week, but I didn't get a deal. Come on, 3 calls at that rate, it's going to take you 3.5 years.
No doubt. That's awesome. Larry, I can't thank you enough. This has been some great stuff, and I appreciate you jumping on. I know you don't do these a lot, so I really do appreciate you. And you mentioned to me before we jumped on that you might have like a book to give away for the people who listen this far.
I wrote this book. In, I think, 2009, and I updated it last year with the gold seals updated. It's called Getting Started in Real Estate Day Trading, How to Buy and Sell Houses the Same Day Using the Internet. And if you want a free copy of it, you can call my office, 877-LARRY-GO, 877-LARRY-GO.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you like
I
that?
love that.
And we'll give you a free copy. And I got some other videos and things like that we can send out with it as well. But yeah, it's available wherever books are sold. It started out being published by Wiley, and then I bought out the publishing rights, so I self-publish it now. But yeah, it's got a ton of marketing information in there, graphs, diagrams, and a lot of freebies, bonuses that come with the book as well.
Guys, if you don't take advantage of this, you are foolish. This is amazing. I'm literally this is your office phone, so I got a call and I'm going to talk to a person and I'm just going to tell them, give them my information. They're going to send it out to me.
I believe that's the way it works.
8
And I say that because we had a person that used to do it. I don't know who does it now. I have people, so somebody does it.
877 Larry go. I need 877 Brian T or something. I need to find this. Larry, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Guys, make sure you do this. 877 Larry go. I'm going to do it right now as soon as we get off this and make sure I get that.
Let me know what happens.
And I'm going to let you know what happens. I'm going to read it. I'm going to review it. And I'm going to make sure I put it up there on our YouTube channel where people can go get it as well. Larry, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you.
Sure. Thanks a lot for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And guys, remember the 3 most important things in real estate: make offers, make offers, make offers.
Bam. I couldn't have said it any better. Guys, we love you. Hit subscribe. We'll see you next time.